Hello guys, today I'm going to be giving you a guide on how to use interpersonal communication skills to successfully survive meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time and just giving them a good impression of yourself. So first of all, I think you got to prepare yourself for this, kind of think about what you're going to talk about before you actually go there. And then one of the first things I think that you have to have in mind are the characteristics of interpersonal communication. The first one being appropriateness. And this is basically just knowing what is appropriate to talk about while you're there, basically, and just being respectful. And then secondly is effectiveness. And I think you just gotta go to the door when you first meet the parents and just be confident, stand up straight with your shoulders wide, and maybe shake the father's hand and just try to be as confident as you can be. And then thirdly, you gotta be ethical, and basically it just means use your morals and understand what's okay to be talked about and what shouldn't be brought up. And then I think you kind of gotta be an extrovert when you do this, which is a topic we talked about in interpersonal communication. Basically, you just gotta be able to put yourself out there. You gotta be social and be able to talk to them. You can't be just quiet. They might think you're a little weird or something like that if you're just not talking, which it can be hard to do that, but I think it's very important to do if you want to have a good impression on them. And then you got to know the type of family patterns that they have, and there's consensual, pluralistic, protective, and laissez-faire families. I think this is important just because it'll allow you to know like what's okay to be talked about, or like what they talk about as a family, if they're more conformity or if they're conversational orientated. And then something that kind of goes along the lines with this is the family privacy rules. I'd say it goes along with it quite well, just, knowing what to talk about, what shouldn't be brought up. And then this would be, when you're meeting them, it's gonna be known as interactive communication model. Basically, there's gonna be a bunch of like senders and receivers of information and communication, just a bunch of different people talking, your girlfriend, their parents, maybe some brothers or just siblings. And if you're not ready, then you might have some encounter avoidance and you just don't show up at all. But yeah. And then to make sure you're presenting yourself good, again, just be an extrovert, try to be the best you can, and then probably hide your mask. I mean, you don't really want to share too much of your private self, I wouldn't say, on the first time meeting them, because you don't know how they could really react to that. And then use your face more, which face is basically if I didn't say before, your mask is your private self, and then your face would be your public self. Use your face more, this is more kind of general knowledge, just who you are and just who you are as a person, I feel like. And just, yeah. And then when you're meeting the parents at the door, you may have to use one of the 6 primary emotions, and I would say there's surprise, joy, disgust, fear, anger, and sadness. I'd probably go with joy, just be happy, and I think that'll have the best impression on them right away. You don't want to go up to the door and be angry or sad, and it might just not have the greatest impression on you. And then I feel like you gotta have a high self-esteem, which is basically the value we assign ourselves. You gotta be confident. I mean, it's okay to not be confident, but I feel like you have a better impression if you're a person that goes up, is confident in what they're saying. I think it just makes you more likable. And then this will lead them to have a better gestalt of you, which is basically like the impression they have of you. It can be positive or negative, but I feel like if you're confident, you'll more than likely have a positive gestalt on you. Not always, but I feel like most of the time. And then you gotta think about possible questions they may ask. You gotta have perception, know what perception is basically the process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting sensory data. Basically, you gotta understand what they're saying, you gotta analyze it basically, and then basically know what you're gonna say back to them, which I know it can be hard because it's kind of a nerve-wracking situation. And then you kind of want to be a people-oriented listener. Basically, you want to be focused on like the other person, be orientated on them, and just want to hear all what they have to say. I feel like that's a great way or a great thing to know before going in. Just being able to be a people orientated listener. And then culture, basically this might get brought up, like what type of culture you have, and just it may be a question they were to ask, like what does your family do, or where are you guys from, and all those questions. And then if you eat dinner with them, like just things to do and then not do lastly. And the first thing I have is pseudo listening. You don't want to just act like you're pretending to listen. It's not going to work out for you in the end. I feel like at some point they're going to catch on that you're not actually listening, and that won't get you any points. You don't want to be a narcissistic listener, which that is basically trying to make the conversation all about yourself. And it's hard to be around those people just because it can kind of be irritating. And so that probably won't be the best thing to do. And lastly, for what not to do would be phubbing, which is basically sitting on your phone while you're having a conversation. I feel like that's super disrespectful and it's probably not going to help you out. So probably stay away from that. And something that I think you should do is be a people-oriented listener. Basically just maybe talk about things that you may think you have in common, and this will only like spark the relationship. You guys can build like on top of each other, basically. If you have a shared interest, that's only gonna help. But yeah, in conclusion, I think the biggest thing you have to take away from this video is just when you're meeting them, be an extrovert, try to be social and talk as much as possible. Just remember to not bring up topics that may be controversial. It's just kind of a fine line. It can either go good or bad. And I don't know, it's a chance you're gonna have to take, I guess. But yeah, and then also just being confident and just being who you are, Thank you.